But the hue of his every feature stunned them as could be seen. Not only was this creature colossal, he was bright green. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to be talking about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and this is a actually it's a Folio Society edition from the 80s that I found in like an antique shop. Comes with this little slipcase here too. So this is not probably the most well-known translation because this is not the Tolkien one, and I know that Tolkien very famously has a translation, but this one is the one I had, so this is the one that I decided to read. And I had not ever actually read this before, and it's something, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight I'm familiar with. I had kind of an idea, but at the same time, I feel like this is one of those things where it is really more so about the experience of reading it, and it's written the kind of the way it's written in verse. It's a little hard to find the flow. The introduction, which as a side note, I feel like these like translated pieces always have to have like the longest introduction. I know partially though it's the whole thing where because it's stuff that has no copyright, so you have to write like this really long introduction so that your version is technically different, and you can justify that. So, but that's neither here nor there. But it did kind of tell you the cadence for it, but I just found that I had to sort of find it myself. And it did, in my version at least, the introduction does say that it's really not meant to be read as words on a page. It's meant to be recited orally, read out loud to somebody, to yourself, whatever. So I decided, you know what, why not? I will read this to my daughter, who's about 7.5 months old. And so I thought it was funny because this is split into 4 fits, and we had to see how long into each fit we could get before she had a fit, because sometimes sitting and reading is not her favorite activity all the time yet, as much as it is mine, at least anyway. So we had some fun there, but it was kind of trying to find the flow and find it was really fun. And I had a pretty good time with this overall. The beginning I thought was interesting, and kind of the the base idea of it too. With, of course, the Green Knight is coming looking for a challenge. He comes to Arthur's court, and he challenges Arthur to take a swing at his neck with his axe, and he'll just sit and take one swing, but he gets to do it back. Gawain ends up volunteering, though, to make sure that Arthur does not have to do it, and swings, the head right off of the Green Knight, but he just picks it up and is fine. I should note, speaking of which that was even mentioned in the introduction too, but considering the age of this text, I'm not at all going to try to be spoiler free, because I feel like most people probably know, but if you were like me and had never actually read it, this is not the kind of thing that I think spoilers really make a difference for. It's incredibly obvious the direction that it's going anyway, because it's meant to be in a way. It's more so the experience of reading it or being read. That's more what you're reading this for. So there'll be spoilers. I figure I should mention that here now. But anyway, so this happens, but then Gawain has to go on a quest for the next year to find the Green Chapel where the Green Knight is, so that he can then take his one and be honorable and go and let the Green Knight take a swipe at his neck the way it is. And it really, like, the flow of it, I think once I kind of found it, I did enjoy. But there were some things that I really was not expecting, and one of the big ones was some really, really descriptive hunting scenes. And so for those of you who may not be as familiar or don't remember, but Gawain goes, he ends up finding this castle, and everybody there just seems super nice, and he asks, and the Lord knows exactly where the Green Chapel is and says, oh, you can stay here, it's only a couple hours ride from here, stay here until New Year's when you have to go, and we'll have a great time. And makes a deal where with him that when as he goes hunting, like anything that he gains will then be Gawain his right to claim, and vice versa. Anything that Gawain gains or gets is going to be belonging to the lord of this castle. And so kind of again, it's something that you've seen a lot. And as kind of an aside, reading this, you can just see so much of how much of an impact this had, and some of these ideas that have been around for so long on other medieval fantasy, and just like that idea as well. Like, one thing that comes to mind is the law of surprise in Witcher, where it's kind of brought up where the thing that you get, it is then the other person's, etc., etc. So things like that, and in lots of other ways as well. I think you've seen that also, but just kind of some of the way of whether it's Arthurian or not, just kind of the idea of the quest, what's happening, the honor. All of it is just, it really gives you that medieval feel, even though the style is very different from the kind of thing I normally read. It just had that fantasy feel. which made it very enjoyable to read. So anyway, so with that, they make that deal, and the Lord goes out with his hounds, and it's just these incredibly descriptive scenes of not only just the hunt, but also like the butchering of the animals and the cleaning of the carcasses and everything. And it was like, it's actually pretty graphic and extremely detailed, and I was not expecting that. So as I'm reading this out loud to, you know, my baby daughter, and granted she's not quite old enough to really understand what I'm reading to her anyway, but I'm like, we're gonna skim over some parts about this, or maybe these couple of lines Dad will just read in his head and go from there, because I wasn't expecting it. So that was kind of interesting and unexpected. But the other thing is, so with this deal, the Lord's wife is trying to seduce Gawain, who ends up like falling, you know, in love with her, and thinks that she's truly in love with him. And so he gets a kiss from her the first time, so he has to deliver a kiss to the king. And I just can't help thinking that it comes off as kind of odd, because I'm like, obviously the king is expecting more to happen. What is he expecting to get back here? Like, is he the one who wants to be with Gawain? And obviously that's not what's going to happen, but it just, like, that whole idea, which also reminded me of A Knight's Tale, with you know, I also figure it's not a big spoiler anyway, but when one of the people is delivering a message back to Auric, and it includes a kiss, and he's all excited. So it just kind of reminded me there again. So much of this, I had a fun time reading it, because it was just reminding me of other things as well. So that was a little bit strange, but then, you know, ultimately it's seeing if he'll be honest about what he received, and the Lord's revealed to have been the Green Knight the whole time. And, you know, so you kind of, again, even without knowing, you can very much see where it's going, because it's just that kind of timeless thing, and it's something we've seen. But it was, I think, an enjoyable experience here. So I did like the beginning, and the first fit and the fourth fit were my favorites. The third fit was the longest and was probably my least favorite. A lot of that was just describing the hunting in a lot of detail, and then describing the lady of the castle's attempts to woo and seduce Gawain. So it was probably my least favorite, but some of this was just like really, really great. So let me flip really quick. I read in the intro, I read the very apart from the first fit. But the fourth fit for me was just probably my favorite. So we have: night passes and New Year's Day draws near. Dawn drives out the dark as the Lord decrees. A time of wild weather, the wind increases. Clouds rain down over the cold ground. A nagging north wind pinches the skin. Blown snow whips about, nipping the animals. Wind whistles and howls in the gusts off the heights, packing the dales with deep drifting snow. I don't know how close that actually was to the cadence it's supposed to be read with, but that's about probably about where I ended up being. But I was like, I really loved that start, and that kind of that description. It was just very, very just like bright and vibrant in my head. I could picture that very clearly. So I really enjoyed some of the description, some of the bits of writing here, just because it was very different. Like I said, not my normal thing. I'm probably still not going to go and read more of like the kind of the verse and the poetry and, you know, the sagas and stuff like that. But there are some others that I'm curious about, and so this was a really enjoyable experience. So I'm glad I finally did read this. I am trying to hopefully do more classics this year as well, and this kind of started. This was my first quarter classic that I was really interested to do, and I had a fun time with it. So I hope to do more. I know probably most people have already read this, so definitely let me know your thoughts on any of the things I talked about, or just in general, or you know, let me know as far as this kind of medieval stuff, if there's anything specific I should check out there as well. But yeah, I had fun with this one, and it was a really interesting time. So that's really it for this one. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.